What's poppin' sweets? Your favorite baker and host is back with a brand new episode of Cookies and Conversation. And we have another panel episode today, and I'm so excited about it. And in light or in honor of May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we are here to discuss the following, and specifically Black mental health and all the little things that can come with it. A lot of stuff that um, can be heavy, may not be heavy. Either way, I feel like it's just a discussion that needs to happen. Today, I have Miya Cottoms, who y'all already know, so I'm not even going to give her an introduction. You can refer to or run it back to episodes 3 and 14 to learn more about her and hear more of our conversations together. And I also have Ethan Gaskin, one of my favorite people ever, for the first time on this platform. How are we feeling?
Hey, I'm good. I appreciate the invitation.
Yes, because I've been trying to get you on. So I'm so glad you're here. I felt like you would be perfect for this panel just because I feel like you always have something very profound to say. I love talking to you just because you always keep it real and you care, but you also don't care. Like you just ride that nice fine line, and I love that about you. I expect nothing less. So because everyone knows who Maya is, we're not even gonna get into that. Tell us about you.
Uh, well, Alicia and I have known each other since high school. Same with Maya.
Yes.
Uh, uh, yeah, a nice long time coming. Um, I'm just a dude with a brain. I mean, I don't know. I
I
have no.
like it
I'm
though.
just a guy with a brain. I tell people I'm not super smart. I just read a lot. and
Why do you sound like my sister? Go
when
ahead.
it
You ever heard
when
that?
other people or mentors or smarter people say stuff, I just listen.
Yeah,
And so that's me.
I love that. I love that. And actually, now that I think about it, if you have any good books that you suggest for me to read, like please run them by me because I need some new books. I feel like I am, I don't know, I just feel like I'm missing out on information. And I just want you to send some stuff my way. I'm so happy to go ahead and discuss Black mental health with the two of you. I feel like the three of us can have a very like healthy, open, honest discussion and can, I feel like, speak to this topic in a very mature way, in a sensible way, and I think the three of us together and our dynamic, excuse me, can really show people, I guess, try to figure out the right words. I want to say that it's okay to talk about, you
Mhm,
know? I
mhm.
feel like it comes with such a negative stigma in our community, the Black community. And I want to ask y'all, why do you think that is?
Mhm, mhm.
Are
Yeah, I
you,
think there's a lot of history behind it.
Mhm.
Um, I think a huge part of it. I mean, we don't even have to go all the way back to like slavery and stuff, but we could. But like even more recent with the 20th century, um, like anybody, if you exhibited serious mental health symptoms, um, you were insane. It was like, there's
Yeah.
no in between. There was no like, oh, you're a normal person dealing with this thing. It was like,
Mhm.
nah, you're totally insane. It was one or the other. And so it's like, if you can't work your 80-hour work week, if you
Right.
can't if you can't provide for your family, you are insane. You are a problem. Kick you out of society.
Right.
So um, there is such a fear attached to it because it was something serious. It was a really big deal back in the day, and even like even for white people, if you were like if people thought you were insane, if they threw you in them old school mental asylums, they just tortured you every
Mhm.
day. Like that was all they did. So it makes sense that older people have such a aversion to it because
Yeah.
that's where they came from.
Yeah. Oh, come on. We starting off strong. I like this.
had me
Yes.
think, like, I don't even know how to respond to that.
Right. Right. And I'm not, now I'm just
Like,
gonna let
no,
it
I really
sink.
but no, like looking at it historically, m-
Mhm.
like Ethan said, there was no middle line. There was no, oh, you're just something is off within you. It was you either function like we say you do in society, or you're insane. You're incompetent. You're
Mhm.
beneath. You're not seen as. And then like let's not even go into just the whole having a mental, but like just not measuring up. That deals into
Mhm.
people's mental health because that stress. eh,
Right.
Stress is the biggest mental health disorder that people don't recognize that we have. Like, and
Mhm.
it's because we're stressed out trying to keep up with a
Mhm.
certain lifestyle or something.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. No, I agree with you too. I think one of the things that and by the way, I agree with both of you completely. One of the
Mhm.
things that I see pretty often within our community is how older Black people, and honestly, maybe like let's throw in some people's parents too, right?
Mhm.
I can't speak of everybody's parents. Um, I can kind of touch on my dad, but we'll see. I think he's finally seen the light. But I can definitely trace it back to starting with my grandparents on my dad's side. They're very how do I describe them? You give it to God and you don't go to other people. You don't go to therapy. What is therapy?
Mhm.
God will fix everything. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. God will direct you to people that will help you.
Mhm.
Like you just add the layer of, oh, hey, I'm a therapist on top of that. And it creates a new level of a safe space. Because,
Mhm.
therapy therapists give like unbiased opinions. It's
Mhm.
a third party that is listening to you without judgment. They, once again, are giving you just a safe space to land and be present. So, I want to ask you guys, do you think that religion actually does conflict with therapy in any way? Or along with that, why do you think that that is such a thing with people? Like, why are they so against Black people going to therapy?
going off of like what Ethan said about the whole being deemed crazy. Like that is just that view. You don't want to be seen
Mhm.
as crazy.
Hmm.
A lot of people feel like once you go start seeing a therapist, it's because you something psychologically is wrong with you and you aren't normal. It's like you I mean, and I think that's the stigma. I don't know how it really started, but like, the stigma of if you have like if you're going to a therapist, you're seeing a therapist, you have any type of mental health disorder that you're just
Hmm.
looking nuts. And no one wants to be seen as that. But so it's like people kind of try to hide it because they don't want that to be, with that stigma. As far as church goes, I mean, I feel like Black people, we just been told to give all of our problems to God. It don't matter if you're sick, you home, you just lost your house, you don't got no food, everything we just been told to give to God.
Yeah,
Like I think that's where that whole church thing is because we've been told all our problems just give them to God and He'll take care of them.
yeah.
But as far as like people just not wanting to do therapy who aren't doing it for religious reasons, it's basically probably because they don't want to be judged or a stigma
Hmm.
attached to it. They don't
Mhm.
want to be crazy, seem crazy.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really funny. Um, well, funny I guess is the right word, but it's so interesting with a lot of the older generation who are raised in a church culture. That's all it really is to them, right?
Hmm.
So there are a lot of people who don't actually have a genuine connection to religion or to Christianity specifically. It's just the culture they were raised in. So,
Yeah,
the culture of giving it to God, the culture of denying certain aspects of yourself or different things like it's just they're used to the culture and that traditionalism
yeah.
rather than the actual Bible because it's very clear and Jesus talks about it a lot how the world is the way it is for a reason and he's given us the access to tools for a reason. If
Yeah.
he gives you access to a therapist it's not
Yep.
by accident. We
Right.
live in a place and in a time where therapy is more accessible than ever. That's great. That's
Mhm.
awesome. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And so when he provides these opportunities for things, it's up to us to seize the opportunities, because he's not just going to throw everything at you just because you asked for it.
You
He's
gotta
like,
keep going.
"Look, you already have it. go get it. Like, I already gave you the
What you waiting
opportunity.
for?
Yeah, he's like, what more do you want? Like, I already gave you the
Right.
opportunity. You're asking for this thing to be healed. Well, then go to the healer, right?
Mm,
So with a lot of older people, I think because they haven't ever explored the possibilities of healing certain things within themselves, they're
mm,
just like it's not even a thing.
right.
They're like, I learned how to deal with whatever I got, so you can learn how to deal with it.
And
And
Mm-hmm.
what's
it's like,
wild is that that can tie, not to cut you off, but that can
yeah, yeah,
tie into generational cycles and trauma
exactly.
and
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
Because the real question is like, did they actually learn how to deal with it? Normally not. It's
right.
just the society they came up in. They could hide it, or they could adjust, or whatever the case might be. Or
Yeah,
they just might have had a life where it never impacted them.
yeah,
But the world we live in now is so different.
yeah.
Where if you got something going on, not only is it most likely going to get exposed in some way, it becomes even more of a problem, a visible problem, if you don't deal with it.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me of the first person I thought of as you were talking about all of that is, and I think this is why I wanted to bring this up too, because it heavily reminds me of my dad's side. My dad's side is very traditional, like in the sense of like everything that you have been speaking to is
Hmm.
exactly, it reminds me like of exactly like a lot of the people on my dad's side. The first person I thought of was my granny, my grandmother.
Hmm.
She is the epitome of exactly what you said. You just deal with it. You just take it to God because God fixes everything. So anything that's outside of that, okay. So now you're telling me something's wrong with me.
Hmm.
And God rest her soul. She was a whole Taurus. You can't tell about herself. She stubborn, stubborn. So, anything that made her seem less than, especially in regards to mental health. I'm not saying that, I don't want to say this in the sense of like, oh, something was wrong with her, because if
Hmm.
there was, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because she was told to always suck it up. And I feel like that also doesn't give you the space and opportunity to, I guess, really take care of yourself. And then being in the South too, you
Hmm.
add that, it's a wrap. Like that's a
Yeah.
completely different level of it. I think that my dad also learned from both of my grandparents. So his parents, like that same mindset of you suck it up. My dad went into the army at 18 because he was running from his trauma. Like
Hmm.
my dad is, he would kill me if I talked about this, but I don't really care. So like, because it adds to the story. Look, he'd be like, "Don't put my business on the internet." Well, here we are. So I think that a lot of life changes really showed him that therapy is more of an asset than it is something that'll take you down. So, I mean, you couldn't really talk. I can't really talk to that side about that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of
Hmm.
like, all right, whatever. My mom's side is very they have the same mindset of, you give it to God and cool, but they also know that there are resources. My
Yeah.
mom's side is very solution oriented. It's like, okay, so how can we get, so this is the problem, this is where we want to be. So how do we get there? How do we do the work? You take God with you, but what is required? What is the work that has to be done? What does he need you to do?
Hmm.
So, and I'm very grateful to see both sides of it all, but it's a thing. And I
Yeah.
think that ties this into my next question. Have you all ever been on like the receiving end of stuff like that? Or do you have family that has this mindset of, you know, it conflicts, like
Hmm.
therapy and religion, or you just give it to God and that's it?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Mm. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember when no, because I had to think like back when
Yeah.
like, I guess it was like third or fourth grade, right?
Hmm.
Um, that's when I was thinking about seeing a school counselor. Then, the reason why I didn't was because, in my school, you start seeing the counselor, everybody knows something's wrong.
Everybody.
Then everybody, and then I went to a Catholic school. So I was just like, nah, let
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
So my next outlet was I was thinking the church or whatever. So I'm trying to think. Maybe I wasn't that young. Maybe I was a little bit older, but I think I remember bringing it up in Sunday school, right? you
Yeah.
know, and they were like, well, basically, basically saying that, you pray about it. Like I asked, so like, well, because I said, what if we feel like this, that, and the third? Like, what if there's like emotions? I either got, oh, well, you're growing, your body's changing, it's gonna go away. This is what the Sunday school teacher told me. Pray
Mm.
about it. So, and I was just like, bro, that didn't help me. Like,
Right.
being told since like no like what it because sometimes you don't want to tell your parents like, hey, I think I need to go see a therapist, and then like I said,
Yeah.
would try to go to school counselor, nope, didn't want nobody knowing my business.
Mhm.
Church, and they just
Yeah.
told me to pray about it, or it will go away, it will pass.
Mhm.
And I was
Mhm.
just, after that I was just like, all right, well, see, you adults are useless. So I found my other ways to cope, and I ain't turned out too
Yeah.
bad. you know
Yeah, it's a like again, it's just so fascinating seeing the generational differences between us, and specifically in racial minority communities. How each generation has had vastly different experiences,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
and it's funny because it's a sign of progress that that's the case. It's a good thing that we can have different experiences than our parents and our grandparents.
Right.
It shows that the stuff they did worked, right, to a certain degree. But then they don't oftentimes see what a lot of those differences are. The parents are always, thinking, "Oh, I want to give my kids better than what I had." Cool. They do that, but then they don't see what gaps might still be there, and gaps that aren't even inherently bad. It's just literally just a age gap or a generational gap, just by the
Mhm.
fact that they didn't grow up when we grew up, and we didn't grow up when they grew up. So there's
Right.
Right.
naturally a lack of understanding there that oftentimes never gets reconciled. And it's been really interesting, you know, um, being an adult now. Like we're full on adults. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Right.
being like, man, like wow, this is so different than my
Mhm.
parents at this age or my grandparents at
Yeah.
this age. And so I love to go to my parents for advice, or you know the older people I love to go to them for advice. But I'm like, there's some things where I'm like,
It's
I'll
like you
ask
don't
them
get
about it.
it.
Like, yeah, like I'll ask them about it just to see what they say, but I'm not actually expecting like an accurate response. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
sometimes it's like they have wisdom, and their wisdom can be applied generally, but some specific cases I'm like, I just want to know what you think about this. I don't really think you can speak to this in the most productive way, but I just want to know what you
Precisely.
think. I just want to tell you about this situation that you didn't experience, and I want to know what you think from your position of wisdom and age. Um, it's really interesting getting that perspective, and recognizing that as awesome as our elders are, they're not perfect.
Yeah.
They're people as well. They have their flaws, they have their things that they don't know, and they're just way less likely to admit when they don't know something. I mean, way less likely to
Yeah.
admit.
Mhm.
And one thing I was really thinking about um, is how, with all the different tools we have now, one of the biggest reasons why they're so resistant to them is because they've never experienced them. You know what I'm saying? If
Yes.
you grew up in the 60s or 70s, therapy literally did not exist for you.
Mhm.
You never got to experience that as a teenager or as a 20 something year. Like it literally was not there for you. Even in the
Precisely.
80s, and even a bit into the 90s, you had to have money in the 90s if you was going to get some therapy.
Oh,
That was just
absolutely.
on a healthcare plan. So I think
Mhm.
as we try to really understand our family members better, we really offer them grace, even when they're providing us with a lot of pushback, and even when they might be being cold to us, because like they literally have no clue. Like they genuinely don't know. And
Yeah.
what 60-year-old's about to be like, oh yeah, even though my kids are already out the house and my kids are fully grown, I'm gonna go to therapy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's pretty
Right.
hard to convince
Yeah.
50 something, 60 something year old to
Get in
go to
their
therapy.
ways.
By
Yeah,
the time you set in your ways, it's like, why
yeah,
change?
they're like, I'm good. Like, they're like, what do I need this for?
Right.
And so I really loved my parents because they were with them both coming from educator backgrounds, and then my
Yes.
dad's mom actually being an educator for over 60 years, she was
Mm,
way more in tune to learning disabilities and things like
that's
that. Because
amazing.
she taught so long, she saw all different types of kids, and she saw that some kids learned very differently. Some kids needed to be treated a certain way. Some kids needed this environment. Some kids needed that environment. And so she never put names to that stuff, but it was very clear to her, okay, this person
Need to be
needs,
nurtured differently.
yeah, exactly. Or,
Mm,
I can't keep these two people in the same class, or, like those type of things. So my parents were always a lot more understanding. And so like I never got the like suck it up type deal. They were always like, all right, let's try and figure it out. They're like, we don't really like, we don't know. Let's go, let's try and figure it out. So I deeply appreciate that they were like that because I know that's not the norm.
right. And I think it's really good to have family members and people that nurture you. You
Hmm.
know, especially, oh my God, that makes so much sense about you because I didn't know that about your dad's mom. Like, that's really cool. You, like, honestly, you are truly a product of like nurturing. Like,
Yeah.
it's very strong. And I
Yeah.
Yeah.
feel like that also adds to why you love sharing so much knowledge with people. It's literally like instilled in you, and that makes me
Yeah.
feel so good. And
Mhm.
like, oh my God. And you were just like your dad. And that's,
Yeah.
I'm clairvoyant. I
Yeah.
am. Like, I can feel your dad right now. So as you were talking, I was getting like a little overwhelmed, and I was like, he is like right here. One thing I do want to touch on too, when it comes to like therapy, like when I started therapy, like I knew that I wanted to go to therapy at some point. I think for me, what the kicker was everything I went through with Rayvon. So that was probably the most traumatic experience of my life. One of, but literally like probably number one. And I say this because I've never I think that's when like obviously I mean, I was always aware about, taking care of your mental health and stuff like that and preserving your peace and things like that. But I think what it was that really motivated me to start to really consider therapy and just go ahead and figure out when I was going to go was when, well, first and foremost, my pregnancy was very traumatic. I think, no, not even I think, like his family brought a lot of trauma to my life. And it was completely unexpected.
Mhm.
I knew that there were so many things that they had going on in their lives, but I didn't really know the full extent to how deep a lot of their trauma is. And unfortunately, like we were just touching on, like generational cycles and trauma and stuff like that. I I remember actually it was last year when Rayvon and I were actually cool again, and I told him, I was like, I said, I don't think you realize it. I said, but out of all of your family members, just the ones that I know, and let's put it under, like you and your siblings and your parents, I said, you are the chosen one that has to break these cycles. I was like,
Mhm.
life is so hard for you because you are aware of your surroundings. You're aware of the fact that your environment is not healthy. So,
Yeah.
what you have to do is the work. The way I explained it to him was like this, and I'll use my journal because it's like, I would never forget this night. We had just started being cool again. It's like probably February, March of
Mhm.
last year. And we were sitting in his work truck, and I said to him, there's like in the dash, there was like a little end date where you could put stuff. So we'll refer to my journal as this, right? And I was like, I said, here's the thing. I said, so this is where you and your family are. I was like, y'all are in this box,
Uh-huh.
right? Y'all know what's in this box. I said, but the difference between you and your family is that you know that there's more
Mhm.
beyond it. I was
Mhm.
like, you know that you got to do the work to get there. I said, but unfortunately, in this box, you don't have the tools. Your family likes to stick with what they know.
Yeah.
So, how are you going to find a way to get outside of that box?
Yeah.
Like, I said, and in this box, I was like, there's trauma, there's a lack of healing, there's abuse, there's this, there's that. And I was just like, bro, I was like, you have to break the cycle. I said, not only for yourself, I was like, but for our child.
Hmm.
And I was like, I was like, you know for a fact. I said, you and I both know for a fact that you cannot heal in this environment. You have to proactively choose yourself. And sometimes you have to separate yourself from your family to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that once I really broke it down for him, that's when the wheels really started to turn. I think that, and one thing I am grateful for, even though we don't speak, is the fact that he knows that he plays the biggest role in why I have PTSD. He knows that he is the reason why I experience anxiety. Um, I think what's unfortunate too is the fact that I had like very mild postpartum depression, and because he broke up with me right after I had our child, it was like it it was just a
Yeah.
whole shift. That was when I was like, I really have to choose myself now.
Yeah.
And he and I actually like we really talked about therapy during this time. He actually went to an abusers intervention course. I think that although he has the tools, he's still in that environment that it's just a
Hmm.
sick environment, and he doesn't know any better. So
Yeah.
I'm I don't pity him, but I feel for him in the sense of like every time you try to pull yourself out, they suck you right back in.
Yep.
And you don't know any better. And because you're like, okay, well, this is my family and they have the best intentions, you
Yeah.
it's just a cycle. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it fortunately and unfortunately puts me in a position where it's like I have to do even more work to make sure one that I'm good, not only for myself, but for our child. So I started therapy in November of 2020. I had to end it because it was getting a little expensive, and I was like, I don't like that. But but in addition to that, like one of my friends, she's a Reiki healer and she's amazing, and she'll be introduced to the podcast very soon. But you know, she helps me keep my energy in check, and I'm very grateful for that version of therapy because like I'll be on 1,000 and I'll be like, this is how I feel. And she'll be like, you need to breathe. And I'm like, no. And I go and I go on and she lets me talk. And she's like, you need to slow down. And I'm like, no. And then eventually, by the end of our call, and Reiki usually takes about like an hour and a half, 2 hours. She's like, but you hear how your voice has calmed down? And I'll be like, yeah. Like it's like a whole different shift. I unpacked a little bit more energetically with that than I did with my therapist. My therapist, she really had me, she shook the table with me. The very first appointment I had with her, my first, session with her, she was like, so what brings you to therapy? And I was like, well, this is my situation with my child's father. I just got out of a relationship with a guy that sexually assaulted me, and this happened, that happened. I was like, and I just really, and she was like, okay. She was like, so as she was like just letting me talk, it got towards the end of the call, and she was like, okay, so this is what I've gathered. She was like, you know I want you to understand the fact that we are going to unpack obviously like your relationship with your dad, because that seems to be like a huge issue, or like rather like the source as to why you keep ending up with these people. And then although my dad is not like the people
Hmm.
that
Mhm.
I've mentioned, she said as far as your romantic relationships go, she said we're going to unpack why, or we're going to discover why you seem to be with people that have the ability to abuse you. And I was like, triggered. I was like, well, all right. And I just sat there and I was like,
Me like a novel.
this just went in. And
That's
now,
a good therapist.
okay, but this was my only issue with my therapy sessions. It's not her because she was
Uh,
amazing. I feel
yeah.
like she didn't really do like a lot of like digging with me, and I like for people to like just
Yeah.
pull it
Pull
out
it.
of me. I'd be
Yeah.
like, damn, like make me cry, something. I don't know. But my issue, I think, is that I am so self-aware and I'm overly accountable. So like anytime I'd have a session, she'd be like, so how's everything going? And I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And I know this, blah 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 blah. I learned this, blah blah blah. And I would just go in and she'd be like, well, I don't really have much to say because you said it all. I'd be
Mm,
like, so it's not that it wasn't helpful, but I think it was that one question for me that
mhm,
really started or really got the ball moving for me. And I
mhm.
think it also forced me to really be mindful about like who I surround myself with. It really showed me just to like really not give a fuck. like wow, like now and after all of like the narcissists that I have been around or have been invested in, I'm more aware now than I think I have ever been. So I cut people off like crazy. And then going back to my Reiki healer, she's the one that really shakes the table. She be pissing me off, but she knows what she's doing, so I give her that. I'm like, look, sis, you got it. This wasn't even a question I had planned, but have you all done therapy or have you all thought about therapy? Are you
Oh
in
yeah,
therapy?
therapy is life. Therapy is
Yeah,
life.
I
I
miss it. Yeah.
I started therapy in '09, and have been doing it on
Mm,
and off since. Like in '09, started shopping around for therapists. I think it's probably like started like probably like in 2010 where I finally found my dude. And like literally I've been seeing him for 12 years. Like that's my boy.
that's
He is my
amazing.
my homie, and I say on and off because, um the whole point is for you to become a better person, know more of yourself, grow. And so there have been different times where he was like, dude, you're pretty good. Like, take time, just go live your life, do your own thing, come
Mm,
back if you need me. Right. So I've
Mhm.
had
like that.
quite a few times where I've had, like a year or like months where I didn't go see him because I was like, I'm good. But as
Mhm.
life goes on, as I age, right, as we all age, like with him, let's say this is my age, right, and this is my maturity. So I get my maturity like here, like a nice bit above my age, right.
Mhm.
But then as I
Yeah.
start getting older, it starts coming back up, and I'm like, nah, then I got to go back. I got to push that
Right.
maturity back up, So it's that type of cycle.
Yeah.
But I tell my friends all the time, it, a good therapist is incomparable to anything else. Like
Yes.
the amount that someone who does not know you on the outside, does not have a personal friendship with you, doesn't have all these different things. They don't have all these other attachments. They don't have you don't have mutual friends. You don't have all these other things. So they can just be real. They can just they don't have to worry about all that extra stuff, any fallout. Or they're like, nah, it's just you and me when we're here. It's just you and me. Let's get it in. Let's pull it out. Let's get it down. It's really crazy too because
Yeah.
my therapist, is the reason why I graduated high school because I totally would have failed out otherwise.
Yeah.
Because in 10th grade, when I had mulching. Oh yeah,
Oh man, that's my
Mr.
boy.
Mulch.
He gave me a hard time, but that is my
Yo,
boy.
yeah, no,
Mhm.
Mulch the homie. Went to a neurologist. Neurologist was like, all right, cool, go get tested for all these learning disabilities. We're like, all right, cool. Went and got tested, and first time it came back with ADD and attentive type, which is like I don't. It's so um overlooked nowadays because everybody loves focus on ADHD,
Yeah.
hyper attentive, and
Mhm.
even inattentive type. They now throw under ADHD. They don't even call it just ADD anymore. They say it's all ADHD. But that's a whole other tangent, which is really dumb. But
It's
so yeah, we
Mhm.
inattentive type, right? And the thing about inattentive type, right, is nobody can see it. You're not hyper; it's the exact opposite. So
Mhm.
you're
I did not know
experiencing.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. But I went to my therapist, and I was telling him about all the stuff that was going on and everything, and I was like, I feel good that I had this diagnosis now. I can really do something about it and stuff. And we would talk, and I'm in like a month or something, and he was just like, I hear you, but I feel like he's like, what you're describing, what you're talking about experiencing in class, it's way more than just ADD. Like that's not that is not encompassing like 70% of the things that you're experiencing. And I was like, well, dang, I don't know. Like, what's,
Right,
I
right.
don't know, man. Like, what you got for me? And he was like, he goes over to his bookshelf and he picks off this book. He's flipping through it. And he's like, he's like, have you ever heard of narcolepsy? I was like, nah, like I never heard like what's that? So
Right.
he's
Right.
explaining it to me and like reading off like the symptoms and stuff. And I was like, yo, that's it. Whoa. I was like, that's it. He was like, yo, go back to where you got tested and tell them I want to be tested for narcolepsy specifically. So we did, went back, got tested for narcolepsy, and that's it. So all these things started making sense. I was like, yo,
Right.
this is why this, oh my gosh. And
Yes.
what's so great about getting a diagnosis is not only can you get accommodations, but you actually have a reason to, you have a reason to give people. When people are like, why are you like this? Or they're like, teachers are like, I don't understand. You're a smart person. Why are you
Yes.
why?
I
Why?
hate that.
Why? You're a smart person, and I can be like, boom, look at this.
Right,
Look at this doctor's note.
right.
Look at it right there, written
Yeah.
and signed. I'm not making this stuff up.
Yeah.
So like literally, if I didn't have my therapist, there would have been nobody else to mention narcolepsy to me, and we never would have gotten back for second testing because the first time, like I said, they only did the like lower order learning disabilities, and narcolepsy is not a learning disability; it's a neurological disorder, which is a completely different thing,
Right.
completely different testing.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow.
so he literally like saved my life in a sense because I
Mm.
never would have figured it out any other way. And so yeah, like I mean, that's the type of thing that therapy can do for you. You know what I'm saying? Everybody doesn't have some disorder they don't know about, but like you don't know what you can get from it until you're in it. Because I talk to
Right.
some people and they're like, well, like, what can I expect from it? I'm like, I don't know.
It's
I don't
given
know
for
the deep,
everybody.
yeah, I don't know the deep depths of your life like that, and neither do you.
Right.
Oftentimes,
Yeah.
and so you need that person who you can connect with, who
Mm.
can just like pull it out,
Yeah.
lay it in front of you, and be like, "What are we about to do with this?" You're
Yeah.
like, "I didn't even know that was there." Ah.
Mhm. Mhm. Ooh, that is so good. Cause I wanna go back to therapy. One of my cousins, she's actually, a social worker, and she's
Mm,
actually, trying to be a therapist, which is amazing. I know I mean, like, I don't wanna get it wrong, so I'm not even gonna go in depth with it. Imma just run that back. But, I just love seeing Black people
mhm.
taking on therapy in the most productive way possible. I think everybody needs therapy, no matter what is going
Yes.
on. You just don't know. You just don't know. Like, I know for me, the biggest part, and this ties me into like the next couple of points, my healing journey is obvious. Well, let's run that back. Everybody's healing journey is not linear. And I think that people so often have these unnecessarily, and I'm dragging myself, high expectations of what it's supposed to look like, what
Mm,
it's supposed to entail, who's supposed to be with you along the journey. And Maya and I actually touched on this briefly in her inaugural episode with Cookies and Conversation. Is just shadow work is very important. I've noticed that with my shadow work and my healing journey, I have to heal my inner child. I've always been such let's run this back too. God, there's so many things that I can tap into. And I'm thinking about all these other tangents, and I'm blaming my coffee for this on top of it. But I've learned that hyper independence is a trauma response to a lot of stuff.
mhm.
And I hate this for me, but I'm also very grateful for the fact that I'm aware of it. And I think that also ties into me healing my inner child, or like just yeah. And I think because I was raised by two very independent people.
Mhm.
My parents are both very alpha. My mom is very and I actually talked about this on the last episode of Cookies and Conversation. She's very much that nice balance of being a humble nurturer, but like, okay, well, I gotta do for me. Like,
Mhm.
like she's just very independent. My dad is a Scorpio, so like there's that. And I think that not only him being the youngest and him being surrounded by, wow, y'all, I just really unpacked something and oh my God, I get my hyper independence from my dad. That I'm
Um,
irritated. I cannot believe
so
this just unfolded like that. Oh
yeah,
my God, you guys.
and just real quick, I just want to say
Yeah.
that's one of the best things about good, positive friendships is when you're speaking on yourself and when you can trust the people you're speaking with, you oftentimes start saying something that you don't even understand the depths of. It can just blow up. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh
it's just
snap.
like
I've
that's
done that
exactly
so
what just happened. Oh, I love us. You
yes.
guys. Oh my God. Yay. Like, I get my hyper independence from my dad. My dad is definitely, I hope that he never sees this. He would kill my ass. He will call my phone and be like, Alicia Nicole, why are you unpacking like
Make
this?
this
Sorry,
decision,
Kevin,
fine, make this
but and I blame him being so private because of the army, and then just whoa, just how like life was for him in general.
Mhm.
My dad is the youngest out of his siblings. He is also the youngest out of all of his cousins on both his mom and his dad's side. And
Wow.
because right,
I get it. Like I get
you see
it.
what I'm saying? And because of his mom having to grow up so quick, you guys. And because of his mom having to grow up so quickly,
Like,
obviously he doesn't know any better. My dad, growing up, it was like no one ever really experienced the trauma. Like a lot of my family members didn't go to his high school graduation because of beef that he didn't even know about.
Mm,
My uncle, his brother that I never met, passed away right after he graduated from high school. And
mm.
that alone was traumatic for my dad. And within that same time frame, he lost his grandfather, so my great grandfather that I never met. And my dad, I feel like, oh my God, he ran away from his problems and went to the army because
Yeah,
everyone kept him behind.
yeah.
yeah,
Oh
army and
my
they
God, I cannot believe all this just unfolded like that for me.
I'm happy.
I just want y'all to know that this is 100% organic.
Of course.
Wow. And I'm truly my father's child. So now we got
Yeah,
to fight. This is crazy.
yeah,
But
yeah.
and also, I think what adds to my hyper independence is the fact that my parents both made it very clear to like never depend on anybody. Like you got people
Mm,
can fold. You know, like obviously you
Mhm.
can have your people that are for you, but like I think that I'm so used to people folding on me. Obviously not y'all. I ain't never worried about y'all. But like I've been around people that folded on me so quickly and unnecessarily to the
yeah,
point that it added to my hyper independence. I
yeah,
think that I've also been in relationships with people that have like they wanted me to depend on them and that made me not want to depend on them, and the times that I did they let me down and I was like, you know what, I cannot. So I'm trying to do better
mhm,
with asking for help. And
yeah,
I'm very particular about who I surround myself with, who I invest my time into.
mhm,
And it goes back to what you just said, Ethan. Like you have to have people that just those positive like bonds and connections. Like that is so essential. Cause like look at what just happened with me. Oh my God.
Mhm.
I just blew myself away. So now
But
I don't
that's
know if I have
this is
anything else to
good. Like
say in this
this is
yeah,
moment.
for like platforms like this is for we're discussing these things and
Yes.
like look at what we just did, just discussing, just talking about it. This was like what conversation was what an hour, and you learn so much of yourself. You're like what 26? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Like
Over 26 years of why I act like this, and it's just like oh wow, it's because of this guy and
mhm,
your
mhm,
parents. Oh gosh, you get so
yeah,
many of their traits that you don't
where's the
realize it.
rainbow that says the more
So,
you know? It just like
yeah.
it just needs to
You
come up the
know,
screen.
and I think what's also so cool is really understanding, how we really are all connected, and we really are, as cliche as it sounds, we're more alike than we're different.
Yes.
Because it's like somebody can talk about their childhood that was extremely different from yours, and you can still learn something from it even though you had like none of the same experiences. It can cause you to be like, whoa, now that I'm reflecting on my own, or even as I'm reflecting on how different my experience was from theirs, I'm
Hmm.
learning something. Like one of my best friends from college, me and him, we are like we're so similar we're so connected, but
Yeah.
our upbringings are like oppositional. Like I mean, like complete opposites. It's so fascinating because we're like, how did we become such similar people in our like late adolescence and
Yeah.
adulthood when everything up until like age 18, 19 was just like two sides of us, like just so different. But
Right.
somehow we ended up being this extremely compatible pair,
Yeah.
and it's like, how
Mhm.
awesome is that?
Mm.
And how awesome is it that because of those differences in our upbringings, right, we're able to, in a sense, check each other in a special way,
Mm.
because I can give him that experience that he didn't have. He can give me the experience that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And so
Wait, right?
you get that additional balance of
Mhm.
just being so different and yet so similar. It's so crazy.
Mm. You guys, I love Cookies and Conversation podcast. God, this is so good. Ah, you guys, I love
Oh
this
my
for us.
god.
I just
So
no, and that, and you touching on this specifically makes me want to ask, what is something that's not? I always talk about like, in a romantic sense, but like, what is non-negotiable? What is a non-negotiable factor or quality that you look for from the people that you surround yourself with?
Hmm.
Because like obviously, who you surround yourself with is usually a reflection of who you are, like
Yep.
to a certain degree, right?
Yep.
So, what is non-negotiable for you, or like, what do you look for in just your bonds, your connections with people that can not only like best support you as a person, but let's take it to mental health.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. The biggest thing for me, um, I mean, I love humans. I love people. So
Mm,
I love building relationships, but um I'm very good about leveling the relationships, and
mhm,
having um different circles of closeness. You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
some people are just going to be acquaintances, and that's fine. I like having acquaintances. Some
right.
people are going to be friends. Some people are going to be close friends. Some people can make it to family. You know, and you got to know how to prioritize those people. You got to know how to parse those people out as soon as you can, so you can put them in the right place, give them the right amount of energy, the right amount of time, the right amount of everything. And so I love with my friends, my close friends, and my family that we can grow together. That's so important. Like that's such a big deal. That
Mhm.
is such a big deal.
Yes.
And I've had some friends um who like some like friends from like college who like haven't known me as long as like my childhood friends or friends from back home where we got to a point where I was like, listen man, I'm working on me. I'm doing my thing. Like I I'm never not going hard for me. If you are not keeping up with yourself, we're going to get
Mm,
to a point where we are disconnected. And I don't want that to happen because I want to be friends when we're 90 years old. But it's up
right.
to you. I'm doing me. I'm doing my thing. I'm bettering myself. But if I get too mature for you, that's not my fault. Like
Mm,
if we get to a point where we can no longer connect because you didn't work on yourself, that will be unfortunate and I will be sad, but I'm gonna keep going. Like I'm not gonna stop. I got to be able to grow. We got to be able to grow together. And I think one of the biggest things that people miss and young adults miss, and the reason why a lot of young adults don't have great long-term friendships is because they don't have friendships with purpose. In the
mm,
same way, a proper romantic relationship needs to have purpose. You know what I'm saying? You got to know what you're there for, where you're going. If you're not about to go anywhere, you better know that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
If it's not serious, you better know that. Like you better know what you're about to be doing. If you're not on the same page, it's not going anywhere. And people are not intentional about their friendships, which is why
mm,
they go
Mhm.
deep and why they don't last a super long time. You got to be intentional about your friendships. You got to be like, yo, I want this. I want. We both have to want this. We both have to work because it's all relationships are work. All of them are work. It doesn't matter what kind. All relationships are work. You got to be on the same page so that
mm.
you can share the burden rather than one person really carrying
Yeah.
it.
I
I
need
like
my
I
mic to pick that up because
had to drop
it's
it. Like
everything.
Like,
What am I supposed to say? I can't follow up with that except with another question because you hit every point.
or hold on. Just the only thing that he like, I mean, he basically said it, but I just want to put the word reciprocity out there. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You got to build each other up.
Mhm.
But not only do you have to be on my level, but if I'm gonna give you certain energy, I'm gonna expect it in return. Now, not on my level, like you know how different people show their love in different ways. Like we were talking
Mhm.
on the last panel episode,
Mm-hmm.
how you just gotta know your friends and how they show their love and support. But it's just like if I'm doing this, okay, for example, you and I supporting each other's business. Let's just say that. It'll be really, really crappy if all I did sit on, or no, all you did was sit here pour Karma Creations all day, all day, all day, and I can't even sit here and like a picture from you. You know what I'm saying? Reciprocity. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just saying like little stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very like
Yeah.
maybe juvenile example, but I just wanted to keep it simple. Like it really do be the reciprocity sometimes, because sometimes even if your friends are on your level, some of my friends, they're not on my level, I can look past it if I know their intentions, like Evan.
Mhm.
Sorry, oh
You
my god,
good?
Ethan said,
Right. I
uh,
feel you.
I cannot do that with y'all. But like what you said with the intentions, if you have the proper intentions, then I can overlook if you're not completely on my level, if you at least match my energy with the relationship.
Mm.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I really think it's intentions, reciprocity, and yeah, like you said, you have to give me something. You know, we gotta balance each other out.
Mhm.
Yes.
Be up here and you be down here.
Yeah.
We're not gonna.
It's not a
Yeah.
proper energy exchange.
It's
Mhm.
It's
not proper.
not.
Mhm.
It's not balanced. That's the word I was looking for. Balance.
Yeah.
Wow.
Boom.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, and a non-negotiable factor for me is empathy. Like
Mm.
I need that because sometimes y'all know me. I am a venter, and I'm grateful for the fact that you all know me so well enough to the point where y'all know when I'm looking for advice and when I'm not. Y'all
Mhm.
know when it's like, man, that sucks. But if you need anything, you let me know. Like, I got you. It's cool. Or like, or you just be like, or y'all try to like relate to me. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all just get me.
Like,
And
yeah,
I
sis.
don't ever want to have to express if I feel obligated to tell you, well, this is what I need right now.
Mhm.
You don't know me well enough, but y'all know me well
Mhm.
enough to the point where I don't have to do that. Because sometimes
Mhm.
I be talking just to talk. Because y'all know I talk. Here we are. Like I be talking. so, so empathy for me goes such a long way. I don't want to be like, damn, my dog died, and y'all be like, damn, what am I supposed to do with that? I'm so sorry for your loss. How can I be here for you during this time?
Oh
Like, you know
man.
what I'm saying?
Uh,
And empathy for me is it's non-negotiable, and I think because I'm such an empath, I understand that some people communicate in a completely different way than I do, and sometimes I be getting a little stressed by it. But
mhm.
at the same time, it's like if you don't make the effort, like
Yeah.
that goes back to reciprocity and intention and things like that. And if you
Yeah.
don't at least attempt, it's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm so quick to drop people. I'm a horrible texter, and I'm working, and this pandemic has showed me that I really need to do better with keeping
Yeah.
up with people. So I really make a conscious effort to do it. Like I suck at replying to DMs. Like half the time, Tyler's on my phone, so I miss it. And then by the time I get to
Mm.
my phone, I'm not thinking about responding to people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and then half the time I'm not even thinking about my text messages because she opens those too. So I'll be
Yeah.
like, damn, but I can't blame it all on my child because I
Yeah.
gotta do better. And I'm
Yeah.
working on it, you know? And that's where accountability comes in. And that's also a non-negotiable for me. Because if I'm spending so much of my energy showing you or telling you why, I'm like, bro, like I don't like that you did this, and you're like projecting onto me, and you're why are you here?
Mm.
Why are you here? Ooh, I'm drinking coffee, but I need the tea. Jesus
Oh
Christ.
my god.
It's okay though. It's okay. Let's run it back. I got a question for you guys. I wanna tap into triggers very briefly. Are you all easily triggered? What are your triggers? How do you handle them? Let's talk about it.
Well, I'm unhealthy. Like, okay, when I say that, it's like, you notice how Ethan, all his responses have been like on the mental health. He's doing the right thing. He's going to see a therapist. I smoke and meditate. Like, no, for real. Like, I mean, Am I very easily triggered? I am now, more so than when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, I didn't react. And that's why I'm
Mhm.
so easily triggered as an adult, because as a kid,
Mm,
I would, as you can see, like anytime y'all talk, I kind of just sit back, and that's just how I am. I just sit back. I don't really say anything. For
right.
someone who likes to talk, I don't like to talk. If that makes sense, it gives me
Very
it
you.
takes me a minute. It takes me a minute, or because I can literally sit for 5 hours and not say nothing at all,
Yeah.
and be in the silence. I have to feel comfortable enough, and I guess like that's for me. Like when I was little, I didn't know how to deal with confrontation. I did not. Like
Mm.
I was not a confrontational person. I didn't like it. So
Mhm.
because I'm not confrontational, I don't know how to handle like situations that go beyond, oh, I lost my backpack. Like I mean, thinking as a child, like
Yeah.
anything else was like just very overwhelming to me. So I either didn't deal with it, you know what I'm saying? I just didn't deal with it. But now it's like I just react. I react
Mhm.
to little stuff. I can't
Hmm.
find fuck shit. Where the fuck is my AirPod? Like that's me. Like or something happened, I'm always like spazzing. But I mean, what I tend to do now, which I think is more healthy, is like literally the whole, what I incorporate into my spiritual journey, my meditations, my affirmations, like really when I'm literally sitting here having like a whole episode of like being triggered, I really sit here and talk out loud to myself. Maya, why do you feel like this? What made you?
Mm.
And I sit here and answer hey, y'all say people who talk to yourself are weird. I'm talking to
Nah.
somebody
No,
who
it's
knows.
beneficial.
I'm about to say I'm
You
talking to
checking in
somebody
with
who knows.
yourself.
And I'll sit here, and that's how I really like lately. That's how I've been dealing with it, because of shadow work and stuff. It like literally makes you sit here and ask yourself, okay, so why are you acting like this? Because this is not an acceptable response.
Mm,
That is where I'm at with it as far as triggers is going. It's like
I
I
feel the
know,
same.
I
Mhm.
notice I could get triggered over a lot of dumb shit, and then I notice that. But no, like I really realized I got triggered over dumb stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like, let's unpack. Why are you getting triggered over this stuff? And like I will literally go back and try to break down a situation to figure out what was it that made it go off for
Mhm.
me. And nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, when I break it down, it's because of something that was chaotic,
Mm.
which I don't like. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Me.
something that is very chaotic. It literally makes me like, I don't know, shut down, hyperventilate, whatever you want to call it. It makes my anxiety act up. So if anything is like out of order, I guess people say I have an issue of not being in control of everything. I guess, but
My name is Alicia. I hope
no,
this is a
I
safe
think that's
space.
crazy. I wasn't
Yeah.
trying. I wasn't trying to.
And I'm really glad you said that too. For me, I story time. So I know that I get triggered easily because of Rayvon.
Mm.
He woke up triggers for me that I did not know were there or were even possible. And my mom, she asked me when I started therapy, she was like, how was I supposed to know when we trigger you? And I'm like, I can't even tell you when the trigger's gonna happen. It just kind of
Mhm.
happens, and I'm letting you know in that moment, okay, I feel triggered. At that time, you got to either give me my space and opportunity to express myself or to retreat so I can properly heal and I don't project. But one of the
I need
biggest
to use that. I need to use that. Like write that down on what, because I really need to say that verbatim to like people. Like I
yeah,
need,
I
I
got
need.
you. I can do that for
Yeah.
sure. The last time I was incredibly triggered was last month. And I'm not proud of that moment, but it also showed me, and Kelsey told me, she was like, I mean, it shows that you are aware that you are healing, and
Mhm.
clearly there's still work that needs to be done. So the fact that you can acknowledge that this is a trigger, you're good. Just keep doing the work. I was like, in the moment I'm crying, I'm like, so we had to drop Tyler off and do the exchange at a police station. It's completely embarrassing, but that's just what it is. And I don't have any type of relationship with anybody on his side, but I'm dropping Tyler off and I'm trying to have a conversation with his mother. His mother, just her existence triggers the fuck out of me. I was trying to have a conversation with her. Look, I started off, I was like, look, I know that you may not want to hear anything that I have to say. At this time, we weren't talking because she disrespected me. I said, but I said, as Tyler's mother, I don't want to hear it. If it's going to be about Rayvon, I don't want to hear it. What triggers me because of Rayvon is when people walk away from
That's
me when I'm speaking to them.
Mm,
Like, and especially if I'm not speaking from a bad place. Ray Vaughn, when we were together, would up and leave me a lot, especially when I was pregnant. Like when we were living together, I'd be at our house or in our house for weeks at a time, and he wouldn't be there just because I irritated him about something small. And
mm,
I'm like, anytime somebody leaves me or like walks away from me in the middle of a conversation, it just takes me back to that time in my life. And because he is just like his mother, it was like literally looking at the female version of him. I was like, fuck you, this and that. And like, and when I'm triggered, like, especially like that, and it takes a lot for me to get to that point, a lot, because I really just be chilling and minding my damn business. So if I really get that upset, the
mm,
only person that can calm me down is me.
mm,
And I don't like when what I'm saying is being misconstrued. Um, like there was like a lot of projecting and deflecting, and I'm like, I can't even get a sentence out. I'm like, if I'm trying to have a mature conversation with you about my kid and I don't play about my kid, of course I'm going to be pissed. But that is probably my number one trigger. Like I don't like that. And I remember just beating myself up about it. Like I'm crying in the car, and I'm like, I can't believe this happened to me. Like it was bad, it was ugly. Like the I hit the Kim K cry, y'all. It was horrible.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
just and like it took me a minute to just really make peace with myself because of that response. And the way I handle it now, I just do like a lot of deep breathing. I've been doing a horrible job with following up with my journal, but that's also the best way I keep my emotions in check. Like through Reiki, like that form of therapy, writing stuff out, working out, yoga, meditation, things like that, drinking a lot of water, being mindful about what I'm consuming to maintain everything. It's a lot,
mhm,
and we're here.
mm.
We're choosing peace and healing from that
Yeah,
situation, so it's
yeah.
fine.
No, that's good. That's good. It's great that you could learn from yourself so quickly. You know,
Right.
that's a
Hard.
big deal for real. Like, give yourself
Thank
some
you.
credit on that. I mean, it's really funny, when it comes to triggers and stuff. Part of like me working with my therapist, right? Since 2010, um, he was like, as we figure this stuff out, you need to make your life as stress free as possible
Mm,
because that just helps everything else, right?
yes.
And after like once I got my specific sleep doctor for narcolepsy and stuff, and she was saying the same thing. She was like, "Listen, like, there's medicines, there's this, there's that, but besides all that, the number one booster for anything you're going through is relieving as much stress as possible. If
Yes.
you can do that, then any symptom for any disease will chill out to a certain degree,
Mm,
and so um I at first, was like, uh I didn't want to have to get rid of my like extracurricular activities and clubs and this and that because that was the first thing they were like, reclaim more of your day. This is high school, so I'm like, how much of my day do I really have? But
right.
when I started really looking at it from the point of like, this isn't optional, this is a necessity. I started seeing how many things weren't actually necessities. And so I had to cut a
Mm,
lot of stuff out. And even like senior year, um, I was taking like only 4 classes after a certain point senior year because I was like, I just can't do all the other stuff. Like, I had four elective classes and my 4 main classes, and I had to cut out all the elective classes. And I was just like, yo, I gotta focus on getting myself to the best place possible, and I gotta focus on establishing a stress-free baseline for myself that
mhm.
can, for the rest of my life, like compare with. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And as stages of life change, um, you gotta, as much as you can, get yourself to a stress-free baseline, especially like in the newness of a phase, right? So I remember like when I first went to college, with college being a super different experience in high school. And college was so much more stress free than high school,
Yeah.
so much more time. And, you're like, what in the world? This is crazy. It's just so open, so free and stuff. And I was like, all right, right now I need to establish a stress free baseline. What does it feel like? Boom, lock that in. And so from that on, anytime I was really stressed and experiencing just like anything, I would always be like, How far away am I from my baseline? How close can I get to that by eliminating whatever? And so it's
Right.
actually really funny because I got to like in a negative extreme of like searching for stress free, where like even some things that actually are important, I would just like whatever. Like I don't feel like doing that because it's gonna stress me out. Like whatever.
Yes.
Uh, and
I
so
say it to my mom, and she'll be like, Alicia, and I'm like, nope. So I get you. Yes. I'm like, if it stresses me out, don't even talk about it. Yeah.
and so I'm a lot better now. I've come back down a good amount, and I'm more balanced with it. But like I don't play. Like stress is not cool.
Yeah.
There's a level of stress that is essential to live, and that's
Yeah.
fine. That's whatever, because you can't deal with that. There's a lot you can't control. I don't care. I have no. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not. I don't care about being in control. I think life is way better when you're not in control. Because if
Mhm.
you're in control, that means the things that happen are all on you. So if
Right.
I'm not in control and I accept that I'm not in control, then the way things unfold in many cases is not it's not up to me because there's always so many other factors. All I can control is my responses and my reactions. I don't worry about anybody else with theirs. I'm like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
One.
It's like Bruce Lee said. He said, "Be like water." You know what I'm saying? And I'm out
Mhm.
here, and stuff happens, and and I connect that with one of my mentors. He is big on extreme ownership and the idea that like just stop taking things personally. He was like, like just
Right.
stop, just stop taking things personally. Like in any interaction you have with the person, negative or positive, there's always elements that you don't understand. In a single interaction with a person, you don't know 100% of their life. You don't know what's actually causing them to react that way, whether it's positive or negative. There's always going to be a significant portion that has nothing to do with you that is causing them to act that way. And so I just live like that all the time. So
Mm.
it's really hard to offend me. It's hard. It's super
I
hard for
have
me.
noticed that about you for
Yeah, I'm just
sure.
like
You've
I don't
been
know.
like, okay.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on with this person. They might have a viable reason for doing what they just did. I
Yeah.
don't know. And so I try my best not to assume the worst because I'm like, you know, I have so much stuff in my life that someone's never going to know about me or, that I may choose to never share with somebody. And I want to be given grace, you know?
Mm.
I know if I act out sometime, I would hope people don't just throw me to the curb. I'd want them to be like, I wonder what he's got going on. That's what I want people to think. I want them to think, man, maybe he's having a tough time right now. And so I extend that grace to other people. And when you extend that grace and when you can do that, even like unconsciously, it's just so normal, so regular. People are cool, man. I'm just like, it's whatever. I just be chilling, I just be coasting on the
You hit the
waves.
nail on the head because I talk about every freaking episode always mentions the phrase giving grace. Like
Uh,
every episode, I don't care what we're talking about, it always comes back to that. And that for me is non-negotiable. I think that's been the most important part about me regaining my power back or reclaiming my power, my time, all that kind of
mhm,
stuff by
mhm.
giving myself grace. I never really put myself on a pedestal, but I had to become even more real with myself in my healing journey and understanding the fact that I'm human.
Yeah.
No, grace is so important in this thing called life. And then when you don't give yourself grace, you are going to drive yourself batshit crazy.
Yep.
Like that's
Mhm.
it. And in times like that, it's I don't even know what else to say. Like, it that's the most that's what you should do.
Yeah.
I think at the end of it all, and I say this every fucking episode, we deserve so much grace. And I
Mhm.
think that extending that grace to other people,
Yep.
it just
Mhm.
leads to a more peaceful life.
It does.
You
Totally.
know,
Yep.
like I am all about protecting my peace. Like if you remind me of anybody, like whoever you are, if you remind me of anything that brings out the worst in me,
Mhm.
bye. Like I don't care. I separate
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's like it's not that I want to, but it's more like I have to in order to
Mhm.
become the best version of myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh, come
And so
on.
no, I just want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
What's so funny is, understanding um who you are as a person and how different people can handle different energy, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm such an unbothered person. I can be with negative people or things like that. And my
Yes.
thing is to try and bring them up. But for somebody like you, that's not the move, and for both of us, that's totally fine and good. And that we understand what we can
Mhm.
handle and what we can't handle. I know I can handle more than the majority of people on the planet.
You
I
absolutely
know
can.
that. So if I were to then avoid negative people, that would be a disservice on my part because I can actually handle those people and I can actually be a light to those people. So,
Mhm.
if God gave me the ability to do this and then I don't seize that ability, then
Mm,
I'm messing up, you know?
mm.
But then for
Mhm.
somebody else, if they can't handle that and they're constantly trying to do it and God's like, "Yo, this is not what I made you for," then you're messing up, you know?
Right.
And so it's so crazy just, understanding and loving the differences that we have in that respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. For me, it's like it gets to a point. I think it ties back to what you were saying originally too. It's like I love to uplift people, but if
Mhm.
I feel like I'm pouring more into your cup and it's, taking away from mine, I can't be
Yeah.
around you anymore because you're
Mhm.
doing more of a disservice to my journey, or you're becoming more of a disservice to my journey and my purpose. Like, I
Mhm.
love to pour into people,
Yeah.
I love to uplift people, but if it's becoming more of a task or
Yeah.
more of a job, I'm like, I
Mhm.
can't, I don't want to be around you because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to associate with you. I just rather not subject myself to it. And I love that you are so unbothered because I be getting so irritated, and you know me, I be like, let me call these people out, and you be like, okay. You'd be like, oh, okay. It's cool. And I just love how we back. And to be honest, both of y'all are like that with me. Y'all definitely balance me out in that regard. And I'm so grateful. And that's why I love having people like you in my life. It is so
Yes.
important to me. Um, a question I have for you guys is, what has been the hardest part or the most conflicting part about your healing journey, and just when it comes to your mental health, if
Mm.
there is anything,
Mhm. Mhm. That's been the hardest part.
if there has been.
Yeah.
Well, for
Mhm.
me, being a mom, the hardest
Yeah.
part, um, trying to heal yourself while you're trying to sit here and raise kids. It's just that
Mhm.
easy. I'm gonna be the one to say here and say that because it's like, bruh.
Mhm.
I mean, like, granted, we're young, and if you don't handle, I mean, that's it. I mean, first of all, I'm not about to sit here and say this because no parent's gonna be perfect. Y'all not gonna figure it all out. Like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
overwhelming. But what happens is we grow up a certain way, and then when we get to be an adult, that's when you kind of start recognizing things because you're at the age where you can comprehend. But then it's like, oh shit, now I got you, and I
Mm.
have to figure out ways to be healthy, not only for myself but
Mhm.
for you. And on
Yes.
those days, like I kind of mentioned in my back in episode 3, it was like showing up for someone when you can't show up for yourself.
Mm.
Literally has been the hardest part of my journey because there were been those days where I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. But then
Yeah.
you have to because of them.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yes.
trying to navigate. It's like going deep within those parts of yourself that you know what I'm saying, trying to be there for someone. I say my motherhood, but it could be trying to be there for anybody,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and knowing that you're not all that, because someone could be trying to take care of a sick relative, or someone could be raising their siblings. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit here and say parents are the only ones, but I definitely will say we are the ones that check on your parent friends that have kids. We are not always
We're
okay.
not.
90% of the time, we're not okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why I'm usually like off the grid because it's kind of like it's not that I don't want to nurture the other bonds I have in my life. And everyone knows that I care a lot about my tribe. So it's not even that I'm not trying to check on you or make sure that you're good. It's just like for me, it's like I feel like and we've also touched on this in episode 3. It's like for me, like Maya has a better co-parenting dynamic than I do. Like mine is non-existent.
Mhm.
Like I would never say that I'm mom and dad, but it's and I can't speak to that or say anything like that because I literally don't know how active he is in Tyler's life. I don't. So
Mhm.
for me, that makes me feel like I have to be even more present because like I'm Tyler's sole nurturer. Like we were together and by accord for
Mhm.
41 weeks. So
Mhm.
I feel like I have more pressure to be. I was talking to my mom about this the other day. It's my responsibility to give Tyler heaven on earth as best as I can, as much as I can. And I think that adds to what everything Maya is saying too. And I feel
Mhm.
like the only way I can really do that is if I really start to choose myself. And for a very long time, especially in 2020, from literally beginning to end, I wasn't choosing myself.
Mhm.
I wasn't even on the list of people to take care of. So
Mhm.
now I'm regaining that balance in my life, and it's not an easy journey,
Yeah.
but it's really hard. It can be very hard to show up for people. It can be very hard to show up for myself, but I know the one person without question is my child, Tyler
Yeah.
Sione. I show up for her every day, even on
Mhm.
my worst days, and it's not easy.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't wish the dynamic or the hardships I've experienced like on anybody. Especially because it's like every day of my life that I have to, do shit on my own
Mhm.
without that much support from literally the other vital person in my child's life. So it's
Yeah, nah, I mean, y'all are legit. Y'all are epic. Y'all out here doing your thing. And
don't
it's no, no, I totally got you. And one of my favorite Bible verses is John 15:13. It says, Greater love has no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. But that could be applied to so much else, right? Even the
yeah.
concept of laying down your life, like what does that actually mean? It's just sacrifice to the greatest extent,
Mm,
right? And so exactly what y'all are talking about, right? Where parenthood is that sacrifice all the time, every day in, day out. And the sacrifice is the proof of the love, you know? And so it's so crazy because, you know, I know, like just being able to have a really good, frank conversation with my parents over the past few years has been so eye opening. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't even know you sacrificed this or that. I didn't even know that was a thing. Just having no clue what they actually had to do to provide the life for me that they wanted to provide.
mhm,
And I'm like, man, that's love right there. That is crazy. And
yeah,
so there's that element where I know, like, for some of my other friends who are parents too, there's that element where they're like, am I really being the best parent I can be? Am I really doing this, to the fullest extent? And it's like,
that's
hey, if you are
one.
sacrificing, if you are constantly making that choice to sacrifice, that is proof of your love. And that proves to your child, even if they aren't aware of it, you're proving to them that you love them. And at
Right.
some point,
Really
they will
needed to hear that.
recognize at
Organized.
some point they will recognize it. It will be revealed to them, and
I'm about to
they.
cry. I
I'm
really
telling you,
need
like
to hear that. Oh man.
it's definitely a thing. At some point,
Yeah.
they will come to understand and be like, "Wow, like I can't believe my mom loves me that much. Like that's crazy." It's a absolutely beautiful
Wow.
thing. And
Yeah.
and the second thing I want to say too is one of my former youth pastor, he gave this incredible message one time about ministering from overflow, right?
Yeah.
And so what he was talking about was the average person is giving to others out of their own cup, right? And so they're like, yeah, I'm sacrificing, I love you, I'm
Yeah.
sacrificing,
Oh my
take
God,
what
that's
I
so
have,
good.
just
Yeah.
take it. And he was like, no. That's not a sustainable way to live. Fill
Yeah.
yourself up, fill your own cup, and
Mhm.
Mm,
minister from the overflowing of your cup.
mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
Don't pour out your cup.
Yeah.
Let your cup overflow and give all the overflow to the people around you. You
That's
know, so,
exactly where I am now. It took a very long time to get there.
mhm,
In 2020, I think what really started, what became the beginning of like truly like my depression and
mhm,
anxiety was the hardships that came with going viral. You
mhm,
know,
mhm.
being I tell people this all the time. It's like no one plans on going viral. It just kind of happens unless you're like, okay, retweet this and it doesn't take much. You
Yeah,
know, I didn't ask for that. It's almost
yeah.
been a year since I woke up and my life changed, you know? And I because I've always been a very I take pride in my selflessness. You know, how
Yeah.
sometimes like you say stuff about yourself and like people are like, "Oh, if you got to say it, it's not true." No. I've always been a very selfless human being. I will give you the clothes off of my back before I do something for myself. That's just me.
Mhm,
And I think that my business truly being something that's very self-serving, and being present for people and doing a service for people, I lost sight of myself.
mhm,
I experienced a lot of and I talk about it all the time on here, but I experienced a ton of unexpected trauma during the middle of my viral moment, and my customers did not give a fuck. And to be
mhm,
honest, this podcast is the reason why they are not on my ass anymore, because they
mhm,
finally
mhm.
understand the human side of things. I When I talk about let's because this actually kind of ties into a tweet that I saw, and I've never been this transparent about it, but it was something along the lines of, black people like in the community, like some black people or a lot of black people aren't given grace when they're depressed, like when it comes to like not taking care of themselves, like the physical
Mhm.
part of the depression. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be really honest with y'all, there were times where I was working in the kitchen and I can't tell you the last time I washed my face. Like I was
Mhm,
like
mhm,
busting my ass. Like I wasn't
mhm,
really sleeping. Like literally nurturing myself and my self-care was non-existent. I
mhm.
was I was in and out of court for months. I was seeing somebody that was literally an energy vampire and like financially abusing me and sexually abusing me. Like I lost so much of myself to the point where I literally stopped giving a fuck about myself.
Mm,
Like in every
Mm.
sense, but especially the physical. And I think sometimes people just don't understand the levels that come with that. Like I didn't have anything to give from my cup, but I had to continuously pour into my child. Like I kind of see it as like, okay, you put ice in the cup, and I'm giving my child the ice. Like it's like, look, I'm giving something at
yeah,
this point,
yeah.
and it was very hard. It was very trying, and it took me speaking up about my sexual assault to really be like, not, and then going to therapy and doing Reiki all at the same time to be like, you know what, Alicia, you cannot, you the overflow it
Yeah.
wasn't there anymore. Because
Mhm.
before it was the overflow, it was gone. My
Yeah.
cup was my cup was completely empty, and I'm so grateful. It's like 2021 has been stressful, but it's also been a rebirth for me. It's very like I can feel my cup filling up. I'm not at the overflow yet, but it's getting there, and it's a journey. It
Mhm.
really is a journey. And I didn't mean to go on such a heavy tangent,
Mhm.
but it's real.
Yeah.
Like I think the last time I ever experienced any type of depression was probably after I had Tyler. Like it was like I said, it was a very mild case of postpartum. Before
Yeah.
that, it was 2010, sophomore year, and I had seasonal depression. It was
Mhm.
bad. Like I even remember like, and that reminds me kind of last year. Like I wasn't really eating, and like I just stopped taking care of myself. I stopped nurturing myself, and I think I'm getting to a place too where it's like I'm starting to feel less guilty about pouring into my cup because my some of my
Mhm.
customers treated me like I didn't even deserve to take care of myself. Like I remember
Mhm.
one time I was on bed rest and I was still trying to fight my way from this bedroom all the way to the kitchen to make some fucking cookies. And like people will literally be like, Alicia, if you don't lay your ass in that bed, I'd be like,
Yeah.
but my customers, because I literally had someone tell me, she was like, so when am I getting my stuff? It was supposed to be here this long ago. I was like, well, first of all, that never happened. You know
Mhm.
that you were one of 1,000 orders within 2 months. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on top of that, I was like, look, I'm on bed rest for 2 weeks. I can't work. My family also can't really work as fast as you want them to when orders are
Mhm.
coming in like this every day. Okay,
Mhm.
that's nice, but when am I getting it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I the way I had to really reclaim my power and my time was very like, okay, if you're clearly not the customer for me. And I
Right.
had to, and like it's to the point now where there are days where I'm like, okay, I'll schedule my day out and I try to get to business, but I'm like, I'm too invested in pouring into myself. And I'm
Mhm.
like, y'all gonna have to wait. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
You gotta take care of you.
Yep.
I
Yep.
did not mean to go on such a heavy tangent, but that's what you said made me think of all of that. So
Yeah. No, it's a hundred
No, but
percent
everything
real.
you said was valid.
People want just the business transaction, and if all they want is the business transaction, don't give them anything else. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Don't give them any care or affection. If they just want the business transaction, all right, cool. Here's the business.
right,
Right.
right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't gotta care about everybody. You don't gotta care about every customer. If they're
Period.
not trying to, again, that's all they want. Be like, all right, if I can comply with this, if I feel like, if I can do it, I'll do it. But that's it. That's all you get.
Facts. I definitely think that, we touched on a lot of good stuff today. And I'm so grateful for the two of you for making this time for me today, especially on a Saturday morning. It means the world to me. And once again, I really feel like this can be helpful for so many people. I'm all about safe spaces, especially within the community, especially with, like, just my tribe. Like, you all are very much a safe space for me, and I'm very grateful for you all. I think the way that we support each other just really helps with our growth. Going back to what you were saying, Ethan, too. And that being said, let's go ahead and end it with this. Do either of you have anything that you want to leave the listeners with, and how can they keep up with you specifically, Ethan?
Hey, everybody go to therapy. That's what I gotta say. Because as much as we talked about being healed from therapy, there's also the point that you can always be a better version of you. There's
Mm,
literally no limit to who you can be. You get to decide that. So if
yeah,
you're like, dang, I'm in a really good place right now. I feel good. I got great relationship with my friends, with my family, with my this, with that. Well, it could be better. You know, well, don't
right.
you want to be super? You can prepare yourself for what might come in the future. Just go to therapy. Go on psychologytoday.com, look up therapists in your area. If you got health insurance, you can go on your provider's website and look up therapists in your area so you can get access. And if you don't have health insurance, if you don't have any money, a lot of religious institutions offer free therapy, so check that out too.
Period.
And then I guess with keeping up with me, I'm not a super social media person, but I have a video game Instagram. If anybody want to check that joint out, it's ET_alien13. Haha. So yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Just you can get all up in that. I have my personal page, but my personal page is kind of personal. So if you happen to find it, it is what it is. If you don't happen to find it, that's also great too. So yeah, no, I appreciate being on here, and
Absolutely.
it'll be good to be on here again in the near future.
100%. Wifey, is there anything that you want to leave the people with?
I'm gonna be you for today. Give yourselves grace. And also, we were talking about a lot about stress. Stress is like the number one. Stress will kill you faster than a bullet can. Y'all know I
Mhm.
don't really have really nice cliches. I'm real raw. Stress will kill you faster than a bullet can. It take time for yourself. Take
Mhm.
time, even if you're not at the stage to go to therapy. Because I know a lot of people they're still in that mindset, like I said, that mindset of you know they might not trust somebody or
Mhm.
whatever stigma that they have blocking them. If you don't want to go to therapy, I would at least say get in tune with yourself because at the end of the day, you're born with yourself, you die with yourself. If there's something within you, take time for yourself. Those times that you spend with yourself, just like earlier, Alicia unpacked and she learned something about herself. Just take 5 to 10 minutes every day with yourself. You
Mhm.
don't even have to do all the meditation. Just take time with yourself, get to know yourself, relearn yourself, because I promise you, just those little steps.
Mhm.
Well, maybe one day you'll recognize, hey, that therapy might be a good thing, because now that I recognize this, I have something to bring to the table. Even when you're just really stressed out, you're burned out, rest. You know why? Because once you regenerate all them cells, you feel back to yourself.
Hmm.
So yeah, so if anything, if I could leave y'all with anything, is just relax. Try
Mhm.
to create a stress-free environment as possible and live your best vibe. I mean, live your best vibe. Live your best life. I don't know if you can edit that.
I mean, that works too.
And everybody know you can get in contact with me on IG at XX Karma Creations. That's creations with a K. So Karma, Karma Creations, Kreations. Hopefully
Hey, go
that's
ahead.
right. And
Yes.
like it said, as far as the personal Instagram, if you find it, I mean it's in my bio, so it's like yeah, if y'all find
It's
it.
okay.
Yeah, I was like, wait, it's in my bio. Like, yeah, you guys are gonna find it, but
It's all good. It's all good.
offended. It's just I have my kids on there, so
Hmm.
Right, exactly. And with that being said, once again, thank you to, and thank you to everyone that tuned into this very important, heavy, lighthearted, emotional, thoughtful episode of Cookies and Conversation. Please look out for part two. It's going to be a good time. And please keep up with Cookies and Conversation on Instagram. Keep up with me on Twitter. I'm basically on every social media platform except for Snapchat. So, and with that being said, we are out. Boom.